So I'm going to begin with the land acknowledgement. Women Who Submit acknowledges the Tongva, Gabrielino, Quiche, and Chumash people, past, present, and future, for their stewardships of Los Angeles County region of California, where Women Who Submit was founded and whose sacred lands were stolen for the benefits of white supremacy on these unceded lands. We recognize land acknowledgements are meaningless if they do not include current struggles for land and autonomy by Native peoples and are void of action. Colonization continues to impact all of our communities, countries, and geopolitical systems. As the fall of 2024, we recognize the particular struggles in Palestine, Sudan, and the Congo. Women Who Submit was founded on the principle of advocating for the most vulnerable to secure basic human rights for all and will continue to do so. In 2025 and beyond, Women Who Submit commits to making contributions to the Tongva Taraksat Paksavsa Conservancy, which works to receive land, create community and housing for Native people, practice traditional ceremonies, establish Native archive, and rematriate the land. If you'd like to join us in this effort, we encourage you to engage with the Tongva Taraksat Paksavsa Conservancy, which Liz Galusas is going to put the link in there to find that conservancy. If you don't know, it's also in Altadena area and it was affected by the Eaton fires. So to show our commitment and response to the catastrophic Eaton fire, WWS is donating the $200 for February's Shockey M. Jackson No Barriers grant to the Tongva Wildfire Recovery Fund. So we have made a donation for this month to their recovery fund. And again, Liz is going to help us by putting the links in the chat. Thank you, Liz. So some reminders, this event is being recorded and can be found later on the WWS YouTube channel with closed captions. Liz is going to put a link to the YouTube channel so you can see it and see our past panels. For those online, please check that you are muted and keep yourself muted throughout the program. A live transcript can be found in Zoom. If you do not see the live transcript, you can find it in the menu in the right corner. This panel will end at 11:15 a.m. and the Zoom room will close. After a break, in-person breakout sessions for new member orientation with Lisa Chibi and member submission party with Lisbeth Koyman will begin at 11:45. Okay, welcome to the WWS Literary Panel and new member orientation. We begin with Making a Micropress with Nikia Chaney from Jammy Press, Katie Porter from Inlandia Publishing, Micah Tasaka from Innate Divinity Books, and Noriko Nakada from Strike Through Press. I now pass it to our moderator, Noriko Nakada.
Thank you so much, Sochi. It's so good to be here with y'all. I know it's in this hybrid world, which is, I know, a little new for me, but it's really lovely to see so many faces from all over the Southland and all over the world. I see Miami checking in over there, Flint. So it's good to see y'all and good to see everyone in person. All right, so welcome. I'm here to help us talk a little bit about what it is to run your own press. So I'm going to start by just welcoming Katie Porter, whose latest collection of poetry is Small Mammals from May Apple Press. Other recent poetry collections include Novel by Bamboo Dart Press and The Body at a Loss by Kavankari Press. Katie is the recipient of an individual artist fellowship from the California Arts Council for 2023-2024. In 2010, she received her MFA in creative writing with a concentration in poetry from Antioch University, LA. Katie lives in inland Southern California, where she runs Poemelion. Yeah, like chameleon. Okay, Poemelion, a journal of poetry, and directs Inlandia Institute, a 501c3 literary nonprofit. Thanks so much for joining us, Katie. Tell us a little bit about how you're getting through these days.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm getting through by reading a lot. I've probably got 3 books going at any given time. And uh, by burying myself in my work, I do, in fact, live at Inlandia. Um, Actually, I'm at home right now, but I've been spending a lot of my energy just trying to get organized for the new year and trying not to, I follow the news, but I also try not to allow myself to become too engrossed by it because, then you might get depressed and not get out of bed.
Yeah.
So, um, but it's
Reading.
been, yeah, it's been horrible for so many people already, and it's only February 8th.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Katie. All right. And now I'm going to move on to Nikia Chaney. Welcome, Nikia. Nikia is the author of Us Mouth and Two Chap Books, Sis Fuss, and Ladies Please. She served as Inlandia Literary Laureate from 2016 to 2018. Her poetry has been published in the Iowa Review, Pearl, Sugar House Review, and Vinyl, and her memoir, Ladybug, was published by Inlandia in 2022. Nikia's most recent poetry collection is To Stir and from The Word Works. Nikia is the founding editor of Chef Poetry, an online poetry journal for experimental poetry. She is the founder of Jammy Publishing, an independent press for literature based in community projects, and publisher of Our Women Who Submit anthologies. Look at these beauties from Jamie Publishing. Jamie. An independent press for literature based in community projects. She won an individual artist fellowship for established writers from the California Arts Council. The two of you in good company. Welcome to Heal. What's feeding you these days? How are we getting through?
Hello. We're getting through fine, thank you. But I really just want to thank Women Who Submit for kind of putting up with me sometimes, because I know I can be very, very non-responsive. And so if I have missed an email or a phone call, or I didn't send something back, please know I love you guys to death. I just am you know, it's a little too much coming at me sometimes, and it's just a lot of stuff that goes on. So the best way to get in touch with me, just call me on the phone or knock on my door and just drag me out. But what feeds me really, Jammy Publishing has been going on for a very long time now. We're getting into our 13th year of existence. And I have a wonderful, wonderful partner in crime, Ginger Galloway, who's not here, but I want to give a shout out to her, just for kind of being there and helping me do this and do some of the books and do some of the works. And some of the things that we're putting together are really exciting. So that's been feeding me. Even though I'm kind of like with Katie, I'm down. It's scary. And I kind of don't know what to tell my students. I don't know where we're going next and what's happening. So when I look at the small things that we do on our own and kind of say, wow, this didn't exist 13 years ago, and now we have 19 books, right? That's crazy. Or when I look at what you guys are doing with WWS, I went to school with a few of you, and just like to see it blossom, that feeds me to just try to kind of pull back and say, hey, we did stuff together. We worked together. We're doing stuff. We're making stuff and putting stuff together. So I hope that helps.
Love it. Yes, thank you.
It's a little bit of a cold, so my voice is a little shaky. But I'm here.
We hear you. We hear you loud and clear. All right. And now I'm going to welcome Micah Tasaka. Micah is a queer non-binary poet, artist, and Reiki master from Colton, California. They are author of Expansions from Jamie Publishing, and editor at Innate Divinity Books. Currently, Micah is an MFA candidate at the University of New Orleans and works for Rainbow Pride Youth Alliance as the Wellness Center Director, providing programming to LGBTQ plus youth in the Inland Empire. Thanks so much for joining us, Micah. Wonderful to meet you. What's feeding you these days?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Nice to see familiar faces. I think what's feeding me these days has been very much like buckling into self-care practices and knowing when I need a break, when I need time, when I need to turn my phone off and look away. I think I've been spending a lot of time kind of escaping into stories, and I've been reading a lot of graphic novels. I've been watching a lot of TV shows and just kind of like checking myself and knowing when to unplug. And I think similar to Nikia, I think spending time in community with other poets, with other artists, writers, has helped a lot because it's kind of helped me remember where my feet are, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And I'm Noriko. I'm a multiracial Asian American, and I write fiction and poetry and nonfiction. I have a Through Eyes Like Mine from Strike Through Press. That's kind of where my publishing journey began, and have since picked up a few other titles. And we're going to talk about how our work as publishers is helping push back and doing the real good work that our world needs right now. So let's talk a little bit just about how we all got started as artists, and then how we pushed, breathed and pushed life into these publishing projects. Whoever wants to start first with kind of who you are artistically, and then what your press is doing, and how you got there. Cati, do you want to? We can stay in the order we were going in. Yeah.
Sure. Sorry, I was trying to. Yeah, I didn't know you could see that. I just would like to. I guess my journey started because I am a writer, and I got involved with Inlandia at a time where it was just brand new, and we were only co-publishing books with another publishing house called Heyday out of Berkeley. And as much as we loved working with Heyday, there were some stories, local stories, and other kinds of stories that weren't a neat fit with Heyday's mission, but we didn't want to see them disappear. So I did some of the legwork in trying to figure out, how do we publish books? And I learned a lot in the process. Like, number one, don't let Cati design the books, which I did for the first couple of books, which I did in Word, which did not go as expected. I'll just leave it there. But we've now been publishing books on our own for probably, I think the first book that we published independently was our workshops anthology, which grew out of our workshops program. Initially, Inlandia only had one workshop, and we started adding additional workshops. And I see, there are several people here who've led workshops for Inlandia, like Micah, Romaine, Nikia. And so we outgrew the chapbook model and have been publishing the workshops anthology since 2011. And yeah, that was where we started. And now we have a book prize, or actually two different book prizes, one for poetry and one for prose, that's specifically for Latinx authors. We have open submissions, although that too, I'm learning we have to pace ourselves, because between now and July, we have 7 books coming out, and that's a lot. So after that, we're kind of pressing pause, except for the things that are already ongoing, like the prize books and special projects. So that's kind of how we got here. I'll also mention Poemelian. That too, that was my first foray into publishing. I was standing in my kitchen when my kids were little, probably around 2004 or 5, and I was complaining to my husband about how long it was taking for literary journals to get back to me. And he said, well, why don't you start your own? And I think his idea was that I would publish myself, but that I've never published myself except, editor's notes. But that's since 2005. So, yeah, 20 years. 20 years we've been going. But it's like poem and chameleon smashed together, those two words. But I think it's getting ready to be time for me to say goodbye to that phase of my life because I just don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's it.
Great.
For now.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. And it is really interesting when you think about the ecosystem of poetry and publishing and the writers, especially in the community. We're all connected in these really interesting ways. Either we have published each other, we have worked on grants together, we've done projects together or run a co-workshop together, or, we've just done some really interesting joint projects together in some kind of way. And I think what makes us successful is when we own that and we honor that and we don't pretend that we're just off doing these things on our own. I started with my MFA at Cal State San Bernardino, but I really think I kind of became a writer through Inlandia. And it wasn't when Katie was there, it was when Marian Mitchell Wilson was there, who was the previous executive director, who basically just said, go teach a workshop. I just emailed her out of the blue and asked her, could I teach a workshop? And she said yes. And I was inspired to do that by Juan Delgado, who said, go out there and write, go out there and share your writing with other people. And that was just on grass, right? I was just blind. Like, I wasn't trained or anything for that. In that program, in that MFA program, I started chef poetry with a peer of mine, a woman named Connie. And even though chef poetry hasn't continued, I had to shut that down a few years ago. It just wasn't enough in there. There were writers who were published in that online magazine, like our featured poet, Makalani Bandelli, who I'm still in contact with. We had, we had another writer who also kind of came through that. And she's now published with Jammy Publishing. And Jammy Publishing was inspired by Larry Eby, who worked for Inlandia for a short time. And I really want to name these people because I'm not a fan of just pretending that I did this on my own, right? Because I didn't do anything on my own, right? So, Larry Eby published my first chapbook. And, he kind of inspired me to start Jammy Publishing. Oh, you saw him? And, Jammy Publishing owes its debt to Ginger Galloway, who kind of came in there and helped out, and Cynthia Manick, who was way over in the East Coast and who also kind of came in and helped out a little bit in those early days. And now Ginger came back after a few years and is really helping me with the editing and with doing some of those things as well. we started another kind of project, and this is at the Riverside Arts Museum now. It's our Wild Seed writing retreat anthology and exhibit, which was really successful. I'm so proud of that. We won a grant from the California Arts Council to do the program, and sort of Jammy Publishing kind of sponsored it. And and again, like when I think of like all of the people it took to put something like that together, um, Romaine is here, which is really cool. Just I'm just honored. I'm honored. I'm honored to be in community here with that kind of thing. So I don't feel comfortable just standing on my own laurels and my own merit, right? I never have. I really want to kind of name the people who inspired me or who helped me out or who started me and thank them, right? Because it's like that's how we got here. That's how I started. So I just kind of I think of it that way. When you ask like how did you do this? I think of it that way. I then love y'all. Like I love doing this stuff. I enjoy publishing others. I really enjoy the work of it. There's something exciting when you're talking to a poet and you get to see them see their book come alive, right? It's not about me. It's not about me at all. It's about them and their book and their journey. And you get to be a witness to that. That is so exciting. They'll send you pictures of themselves with the book. And it just feels good. It feels good. So, if that's what I can be a part of, I'm happy. And I'm like Katie too. I'm so impacted when it comes to work. There's not very much we can do. We can only maybe do 2 or 3 books a year, but I'm proud. I'm proud of the journey. So I hope that helps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the community that Women Who Submit has brought together today is very like, I mean, just seeing these faces in this room, the amount of connection that exists here and that shares bylines and yeah, it's beautiful. All right, Micah, tell us about your work.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I have been writing forever, like since birth, right? But I think I really got interested and started up with like thinking about how to like compile collections of poetry. I went to UC Riverside and studied under Rachel Cruz, and she was a huge influence in that. She was like the mentor for my thesis project and was very much encouraging of just put it together, see what happens, put it out there. And I also like come from like zine culture as well. So a lot of like, like doing the thing yourself and spending the hours folding and stapling and whatever else. But I think like some of those like early times did a lot in teaching me like how to put a book together, like what is that like and what pieces need to be there, how to market yourself, how to sell things yourself. I also definitely, like Katie was like the very first person to give me like a workshop class that I taught like fresh out of undergrad, and like Katie was like, yeah, let's go. I mean, Nikia was the one to publish my book. So definitely with the help of like folks in the room. I didn't join Innate Divinity until about 2020. And we've been really focusing on like how to make things grow. I think before I came on, it was it's a couple books that they had published, but it was a lot of creative consulting, and then together as a team. So it's me, Eric Devon, and Samuel Benjamin Rain kind of came through, and we're really exploring like how we wanted to shift this vision. And I think we all kind of agreed that we wanted to do this because, being the publisher instead of the publishee gives you a lot of say in what types of like voices you want out there and like what do you want existing in the world in the form of a book. And it's been a really interesting process, like just learning how you know, like working with others and what their process is like and learning from them. And we did an anthology, I believe it was in 2022/2023. And that in itself was a really interesting process, just learning how to like compile things, how to like market, how to work with other poets, and then have done a couple of publications since then. So we published a book called Girl Teeth by Christina Brown, who's a poet out of Long Beach, which is a very, very, very beautiful book. We also, I think our most recent publication is One Fell Swoop by the poet Dig Wayne, which is a book full of haiku, which I had so much fun putting together, you know. So kind of just like learning how to like shift and grow things. And then in my work, so I run an LGBT center in San Bernardino. That's what I do in the daytime. And what we've been kind of like brainstorming, talking about is now how to like grow this. I have a lot of kids who are interested in working to publish in anthologies, and what does that look like in putting out like queer and trans voices, putting out the voices of youth poets. So I think it's just continuing to like envision which direction things go in, and seeing how to grow this thing.
Oh, yeah, that idea of growth leads us into this kind of second question I have. And let me just talk a little bit about Strike Through. So Strike Through Press came about when I first, I got an agent. I finished my MFA at Antioch, and I had this manuscript of a young adult memoir that doesn't, like, that genre does not exist in publishing, a young adult memoir. And so, but I found an agent. I was super excited. And she was at a boutique agency, and I was really excited about working with her. And then she left that boutique agency and went to like Sterling Lord. And so now my little book was not getting like, she wasn't thinking of a small press, she was looking big five. And my book is not like a big five, you know, it's like this small, quiet book. And so it didn't go anywhere. And I was like, okay, I got my MFA, I wrote my book, I went to an agent, they shopped it. Like, no one tells you what to do when then it doesn't sell, you know? And so I just kind of went about continuing to write on my own and waiting to say, oh, I don't know what happens. I have an agent, but what's happening with that? And you see kind of, I began to see the inner workings of publishing, of how agents work and how the big five work. And I'm a teacher. I teach middle school, so I just went back to my day job and kept writing and doing my passion work on the side. And then I was doing National Novel Writing Month with my students. We do it every November. And at the time, there was a collaboration with Amazon. And they were like, oh, your kids can put together a mock of their book, and we'll send them free copies. And I was like, oh, what a great thing for them to be able to just hold their words and their work in their hands, publish it on their own, and do the whole thing. So I started leading my middle schoolers through that process. And then I realized, oh, this is not magic, you know, to put together a book. We have a lot of these skills. I have friends who have these skills. And so I realized that I could do it if I didn't want to wait for, you know, the publishing offer. So that's how Strike Through started. And I ended up doing, and I kind of had rules for myself. I was like, okay, Strike Through will publish if I exhaust like other publishing, like I'm trying to do it the traditional way and it's not working, and then I'll publish it. And that's what I did with my 3 books. And then a beautiful book came my way from Hazel Kite Witham, who was my writing partner, and we published this year, Strike Through's first novel in verse, The Truth About Secrets, which is a beautiful story of the author coming to grips with the day in middle school when everyone found out that her mom was gay and that she had 2 moms at home. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And if you have not picked up a copy, you should. So anyway, that's where Strike Through is now. And we are publishing only authors that we are in very strong community with and want to work with and believe in putting their books in the world. But I'm very new to my Micropress work. And so I guess I want to know how you all are breathing life into this work that we are so passionate about and pushing against, but we're still operating within this capitalist framework, that shows value. Like I don't make enough money through my publishing work to not have another job. How are you pushing against capitalism, but still within this kind of tough framework where we're doing a lot of labor, that we believe in, but it might not be paying all the bills.
I'll jump in. I'm probably the only one in here who, Inlandia is a 501c3. So we're able to apply for grants, which is a saving grace. Otherwise, there is no money in publishing unless you are writing really, truly commercial fiction, in which case, that's not the kind of thing that Inlandia wants to publish. We want to publish books that would otherwise not be appealing to a big commercial publisher. Books that have value and that have interesting stories to tell, and that we're not looking at them for marketability. We're looking at them for quality. And is this a good book? Is this something that I want to read? If it's not something that I want to read, then we're probably not going to publish it. And with a focus on local authors, with the exception of the prizes that we have now. But it's not easy. Like you, when we started, it was just figuring it out as we go along, and we're still figuring it out as we go along. We've learned most recently that we have to pay professionals to do the layout and design and copy editing, because when we do it ourselves, we're inclined to miss things. So, like, there were some things that were glaring errors in a recently published book, and that was and we had gone through it so many times, but you can't see it yourself. So we're also feeding the local creative economy by hiring people, but the odds of us recouping those funds are basically nil, because authors buy copies that they can sell at readings, and that's at a steep discount. So we don't make much there. Online sales, anybody who sold through Amazon or any of these online venues, that the percentage that you get back is, pennies on the dollar, because they have so many different fees and they demand a high percentage off the cover price, and it's just in order for them to even carry it. So we do it for the love of books, and we do it for the love of community. And I know, we all have to have day jobs in order to sustain our work as publishers. And I wish it wasn't that way, but there are no, as far as I know, there have not been any dedicated grants or funding sources just for supporting small presses. Or if there are, they're extremely hard to break into. Like, there was the Amazon Literary Partnerships Program, extremely difficult to get into that. And Poetry Foundation grants, they support presses, but only poetry presses. So if you publish more than just poetry, you can't even apply. So yeah. It's
Yeah, so interesting to hear. I mean, the nonprofitness of it, and uh, I just saw that Kaya Press, like a grant that they usually get, just got defunded by the federal government. So we're gonna have to be creative, right? We're gonna have to figure out how to value our own community and our own work outside of these traditional publishing frameworks. Nikia, what's your take on how this is like how we're breathing and pushing within capitalism and against capitalism at the same time?
Yeah, I'm right alongside Katie. Jammy Press became a nonprofit 2 years ago expressively because there's no way to operate. Um, there just isn't enough generated from the sale of books. And there's only two of us. I pay the editor. Gender does not work for free. I refuse that. That's not correct, right? So she is paid for the work that she does in editing the books. And the way we sort of divided our labor is that she works on the layouts, edits, and putting all that together. And I do all the other stuff. I do all the other kind of business stuff and contact and whatnot. But because there's only two of us, there's no marketing. We cannot offer marketing to our authors. Um, we basically can only sell them books at half off of the retail value in order to even make those pennies on that dollar to keep that going. And that's not good enough. Let's just be honest. That's just not good enough. I've always wanted to create a system in which we could regift the publishing rights back to the author so that they can make their own money and we wouldn't have to act as that middleman. But the problem with that model is, and then how are we in any way whatsoever sustainable? We have a website, we have a domain that we have to pay. The editor should get paid for what she does, right? So there we do have business cost. We can't have nothing at all coming in. And I've never been able to kind of reconcile that. I haven't. I don't have a solution for that issue, but I'm uncomfortable with it and I don't like it. I want to be able to give something different to my authors. This year, our goal is to move off of Amazon. We do not want to sell our books through Amazon. We want to go just straight through Ingram Spark. And we don't want to use any kind of KPT or anything. That's kind of this year for this goal. But that's very labor intensive. Of our books, most of them are through Amazon. So it's going to be very labor intensive to redistribute, all of those books. But I think it's an important endeavor just to kind of not aligning with that capitalist system. I do think that there's something that we really want to do and we really want to set up. I also want to go back to this idea of doing something for the authors that we are already published and we're already listing and trying to get them to keep their own rights and to have their own publishing rights and to not go through Jammy anymore. But again, I don't have the solution for that just yet. So, I'm in that kind of that liminal space of how do we do this as ethically as we possibly can? And then I'm my own self. I'm only one person. So, I may not have gotten an email back, or I may not have contacted someone, or I may be very slow on the getting the royalties back to the authors, or calculating that. And, I want to be as transparent as possible, but it's just lack of capacity. I need a secretary, I need an assistant, I need a maid, I need some staff here. I need some major staff going on. But I've always felt a little low about not being able to be as, I don't know, as serving, because I feel like the authors deserve more, right? They deserve, like, our whole goal is to to publish authors who are doing good works in the community already, who are out there teaching, who are out there doing things, who are, working as community service workers. So gifting them that book. Here you have a book by a press. You don't have to publish this book. You get a professional layout for this. It is distributed through a national distribution agent. That is your gift to you. And I can't quite do that the way that I want to do that, the way that it should be done. So that's where I sit with that difficulty. I sit with that, and I own that. I absolutely own that. So this
Yeah,
is
and if you figure out a way to get it done with, like, show us the way, please. We all, because I think everything is so funneled into, like, it's so hard to do it without Amazon. And so let us know how that goes. And I think we do, I mean, we see that, like, so many small presses start out with just really well-meaning folks who are just trying to publish the good work that we see around us. And then we have limited capacities, and maybe the books aren't getting, delivered in a timely manner because folks are doing it on their own, and it's these passion projects that we really believe in, and we are trying to do right by our writers. But I think your transparency is the key, and, like, knowing, okay, this is what I can offer you as your publisher, and that artists are going in with open eyes about what the work what they can expect. I think is so much part of treating, the art and the work and valuing it, is showing this is what we can do and this is what we can't. Micah, what do you think?
So first of all, I really appreciate this question. I think there's like a misconception, especially when working like from the artist perspective with publishers of like, I'm gonna sell millions of copies of this book. It's gonna be great, whatever. But I think the reality of small presses, and kind of like echoing what Cati and Nikia were talking about too, is everybody at Innate Divinity works a full-time job. This is something we do on the side. We're not a nonprofit, so this is very much just like passion work. We do this because this is what we're interested in and this is what we like. So definitely not here to make money, and I knew that going into this, but I think especially with the job I have, I'm one of like 5 directors at a nonprofit, and oversee a whole center, right? So like I often work with like youth in crisis. I often work with like developing all these programs, doing all these, many, many hats throughout the day. So I think I've learned very much like a give and take of like knowing how to measure my own capacity, and then where do I need to step back. And I think balancing like my own like job, my own art, school, like all of these things, with something like Innate Divinity. And I know like the other folks at IDB are doing the same. It's kind of like having to learn, like, like, yes, we may really love this book or love this author, but like, do we actually have the space to publish this right now? And learning that, sometimes you don't, and that's okay, like maybe it's not the time, or maybe it's time to shift into something else. So I think that's been a huge lesson for me in the last few years, is just like kind of learning what do I have space for, and what am I able to offer right now, and very much reminding myself to also like fill my own cup, because otherwise I am pouring nothing. So
Yeah, I feel that. All right, so let's think a little bit about our audience and folks who are looking to publish. What are you looking for at your press? How do you find your authors? What kind of voices are you lifting up with your publishers? publication?
So right now for Inlandia, we do not have an open call for submissions, but we have the two prizes that are like, we just closed the Eliud Martinez Prize, which is a prose prize for Latinx writers, anyone who identifies as Hispanic, Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, Latinx. And then the one that just opened on February 1st is the Poetry Prize, which is open to anyone nationally for a full-length manuscript. And there's also the second bite at the apple. If you are a poet who resides in the region, then you are also considered for the regional prize. So we give out 2 equal prizes every year. So with both the Martinez Prize and the Gravendike Prize, they all come with a $1,000 honorarium. They come with a book contract, and it's wonderful to be able to offer these things. We're able to, in part, thanks to generous donors from the family and friends. Eliud Martinez was a literature professor, English professor at UCR, and he recently passed away, but he had a great following of students and a belief in multiple identities. He didn't focus on one particular aspect of his identity, but he believed that we are all many different things. And so this prize, we founded in his memory. The Hilary Gravendike Prize was founded in memory of Hilary Gravendike, who taught at Pomona College in Claremont. And she was only 35 when she passed away. And she had been ill for a very long time. And her family is very much involved. Now, when I say that, we're able to do this because the families donate, it's not like they give a lot, which is why we do have to ask for prize entry fees, but we try to keep it manageable, $20, $15. We have fee waivers available upon request. I've never denied one. If you ask, we will give it to you. It's, as far as our Inlandia books goes, like right now we have 4 books. One that just launched, and the event is on the 20th of this month. Apartness, a memoir in essays and poems by Judy Cronenfeld. We also have a debut novel by Carlos Cortez, which he will be 91 by the time the novel comes out. So he's a debut novelist as a nonagenarian, and it's somewhat autobiographical. So it's sort of interesting how we blend fiction and memoir, but they're both local authors. Keep Sweet, which is by Victoria Waddle, and it's young adult fiction, but it is also inspired by the story of, I think his name was Warren Jeffs, and he was a fundamentalist Latter-day Saint, and he had a group of church members in his following, and they married very young girls. The girls had no say in who they married. And there's a documentary called Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. And this is Victoria's take on what it might be like to be one of those young girls. And then the last one is called Raised by Thatcher Carter. And she recently moved to Canada from Riverside. She lived here for many, many years, but her husband is from Canada, and they had previously decided that when he retired, they would move back. But Raised is a story of gentrification in New York during the 1970s. And all of those stories are ones that are literary in nature, but not necessarily commercial fiction. And I think that they're books that they aren't focused on romance. They aren't focused on something hip or trendy that just a lot of people would want to buy. They're just good stories. So that's really what we're looking for, a story that the author believes in, that that we want to publish because we believe in the author, we believe in the book. And while we're closed for submissions right now, we will reopen. It's just we have to focus on capacity and rethinking how many books at a time we can manage. So, because between now and June, we have those 4 books. We have the 2 Hillary Gravendike Prize winners, one of whom is here, Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. And we have the last Eliud Martinez Prize winner. And, you know, we're taking special care with, because in the process of him submitting, he passed away before he could learn that he won the prize. So we're working with his family on that. So there are a lot of moving parts, but we will resume. And when we do, I would, you know, anybody's welcome to reach out to me. I'm a real person. I answer the phone, probably when I shouldn't, but I do. And text, call, email. We're about community, and everybody here is part of our community. So that's what we look for.
Thank you, Katie.
Sure.
The exciting catalog you have coming out this year. Those sound like amazing.
Terrifying when I say it out loud.
Nikia, how can folks publish with you?
So yeah, what's interesting, a few years ago, we did do an open submission, like through New Pages and through Submittable and the whole 9 yards. But what we found with that, even if it does generate a little bit, you know, you can do $10 a submission, $5 a submission. It became very labor intensive going through the submissions. And I actually have a problem of saying yes. I want to publish everybody, right? Like I really want someone to have that book. And so it just wasn't viable to do that, to kind of have an open submissions. So last year, we ended up doing a Jammy Summer of Books promotion with women writers of color in Santa Cruz. And so we've been doing very targeted kind of outreach to certain groups and certain organizations and creating these partnerships like with Women Who Submit, so that our books are kind of coming around the project, because I really want to make that highlighted. What project is someone doing? What community service thing is someone doing? And how are they doing that? So with the Jammy Summer of Books, because the writers of color in Santa Cruz were already doing these things and fostering these writers, we kind of said, well, hey, if you had a couple of writers who wanted to submit, please go ahead and submit some things to Jamie Publishing, and we can publish you. And we ended up getting 4 books out of that. One of that was Keepers of the Malakang Rice Terraces by Albina Rafiza. And she is from the Philippines, and these are poems kind of honoring kind of her culture and her background. And she's doing some really beautiful work with her community in Santa Cruz. We have Madeline Aaliyah, who published This Is My Body. And she ended up becoming the poet laureate of Watsonville, the youth poet laureate of Watsonville, California. She's a trans teenager, which was so cool to kind of foster that first book from her. And then we have Sarankara Collage, which ended up being a book of images from Madonna Levon Camel. She does a workshop in which she does collage art. She's an African-American woman, and she does these collage art workshops across Santa Cruz and across Northern California. And so we published a book of her images of her work, and I was really, really excited about that. And then we published The Longest Night, which was another kind of anthology from Lydia Theon, Where I. This was every night, Lydia would invite a group of poets to come together to write through the winter solstice in honor for those who did not have homes. And it's such a beautiful project that we went ahead and we published an anthology from it. And of course, the Women Who Submit book as well. We published that anthology as well too. So I really loved working with community projects. Yes, community projects were kind of like my heart and soul. Like if you had an ongoing community projects. But again, we did have a Raquel Bell, who was just a poet, right? Who kind of talked to us about what she was doing. And, my thing is this, like, I'm open to people just talking to me about their project and what they're doing. And hey, if you got something, we can try to put something together. I really think as advice for those of you who are like, how do I publish with a small press, is to get into that community, right? Meet those editors, meet those authors, talk to them, be a person, be a human being, and have that conversation, and just blazingly, boldingly, the same way Women Who Submit is like, send that work out, right? We're going to send that work out no matter what. Hey, can I send you something? I looked at your catalog. I looked at what you're doing. Is it okay for me to send you something? Are you interested? Would you be able to look at my manuscript or look at my book? Like, going ahead and championing that for yourself, because we do want to talk to you. We do see you, even in this landscape, as horrible as things are. We do see you, and we do want to know what you're doing and want to know what you're writing. So I'd say send your work out and talk to people. Just talk to them. And that's some advice that I would give. Yeah.
Thank you, Nikia, for that. Yeah, like especially in this climate. Like, don't let people think that just because folks in power are delivering a message of unworthiness to so many people, we all know our worth. We all know the worth of the voices in these rooms, and send that work out. Yeah, absolutely. Micah, how can folks look to publish with you?
Yeah, so I love the idea of just like being in community with other poets. I feel like as a poet, that's been like the most like the thing that has got me the most connections, is just showing up to the event and talking to the people and reading the poetry and doing the things, so I definitely want to echo that, being in community with other folks and just learning who's around you and what they're about. One of the books that we published came from somebody that we met at an open mic, and he just came up to us and was telling us about his work, and we were just like, yeah, like, let's do this. This is cool, I think what we tend to look for is definitely like poetry that just like draws us. I don't know, it's like a magic about it that just pulls us in, of like, yes, this is something we want to publish. But I also think we're definitely interested in boosting the type of voices that we want to see out there. So boosting the voices of women writers, BIPOC writers, LGBTQ plus writers, people who this is their first book. Innate Divinity is based out of San Bernardino as well. So we're very interested in boosting the voices of Inland Empire writers, San Bernardino writers specifically. And we don't have an open call at the moment either, but definitely keep an eye out on our website, on our Instagram for any like calls for submissions for things. But yeah, I definitely think like just being in community with other folks, meeting other poets, learning what they're about, and you know, you never know who you're gonna meet or what's gonna happen. When I met Nikia was just at like some random workshop and like I'd never heard of Jammy before. And it was just kind of like, oh, like, do you do this? Oh, like here's a manuscript that I have. Do you want to look at it? You know, and it's just like very much I think poetry is an art of like connection and community, much more than like a lot of other genres of literature, in my opinion, you know. So definitely learning who your people are and what they bring to the table.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, Strike Through does not have a publishing schedule, but we are working with Lisa Chibi for 2025 to publish her cat books, and so we're really looking forward to that collaboration. And I would echo all of these editors, like talk to folks. We are people. We
Noriko,
yeah.
we can't hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to shut you up. Okay, so yeah, we're
Still on mute or something. Can't hear you. Sorry.
Still can't hear me?
Now we
can.
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Well, so we'll be publishing Lisa Chibi's chapbooks in 2025. And I would echo these other publishers, like just be open and reach out. Like we're people and you can reach out to us. All right. I think we wanted to give these last few minutes for some Q&A. Is that right, Sochi? If anyone has any questions, they can pop them in the chat.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, that's interesting.
It's echoey.
Yeah. Okay, that's not gonna work.
Maybe we can just type them into the chat and then I can read them out. Sochi?
Also looks like someone has their hand up.
Oh yeah, Eve. Eve, do you wanna?
Yeah, thank you. I just had a question about kind of first step logistics. I loved hearing the origin story. And first, thank you so much for all the sharing. And I completely understand about community. I don't want to take up too much time here, but appreciate the good community. And my question is about those baby steps for launching. I know it was mentioned about, like art for the book. I'm wondering, because I'm a very anti-Bezos person myself, and I'm thinking about distribution. I know there's another distributor that is doing, independence, and just wondering a couple of maybe like a starter kit, if someone could speak to that. Thank you.
There are other distributors. So I don't know what model you're using to actually do the production on the books. Inlandia uses Lightning Source, which is a subsidiary of Ingram. And Ingram Spark is also part of that family of models. And when you publish through Lightning Source, or I think also when you publish through Ingram Spark, you're automatically able to go into the Ingram pipeline, which gets you into all the different bookstores. So I don't know if there's a way to not have your books fed into Amazon, but I would say definitely, don't use Amazon's publishing platform, but use Ingram Spark or use I don't know what other models are out there, honestly, because I've only ever used the one. We've always been doing Lightning Source. But we also have a relationship with Bookmobile, which is, they're more expensive in terms of production, but they have a sister distributor also that is called Itasca Books. And what I like about Itasca is that they are real people. You can pick up the phone and talk to them. And the same with Bookmobile. You can pick up the phone and talk to them. Unlike at Lightning Source, where you can't. There is nobody you can get on the phone. I mean, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you could call and get somebody, but not anymore. At least I can't. So look at Itasca, look at Ingram, and look at Bookmobile and Ingram Spark.
Yeah, and I was going to echo a little what Katie said as well. Amazon has KPD, which is kind of their direct print on demand company. And it's very easy to use, but again, you're kind of into that Amazon system almost directly. And Ingram Spark will feed into the Amazon system, but it's not Amazon's company itself. So that's something that you want to do. You also need to really look at how a book is kind of the layout of a book. One of the things I think a lot of small presses or small publishers don't think about when you're getting a book together is that layouts are actually a little complicated, right? They're not as easy as just sort of diving in and jumping in and, oh, I'm going to set this up or I'm going to do this. Sometimes it's easier to kind of outsource that and that alone, but be very mindful when you're looking at things. If it's sort of like saying they could do everything and pay a bunch of money, don't do that. Okay, please don't do that. I've met a couple of people now who've wanted to go and either self-publish or do their own publishing company, and they're ready to pay all this money. And please don't do that, right? That's not the model that a small press should work from. We should not be taking money directly from the authors. That's kind of not how it should go, right? So just be mindful of kind of when you're looking up everything to try to understand like how I need a distributor. I need someone that's going to print these books. I need an ISBN number because I want this book listed, and kind of under the library catalog for it. And then I need layout. I need kind of that layout editor. And I need to make sure that that I understand how a book's layout should be, or even proofing it and so on and so forth. So maybe if you kind of start with those 4 things, what is a distributor? What is that ISBN? What's a printer? How I'm going to print this? What is print on demand? And then like, what is layout editing? And really take your time to look at that stuff and research that stuff. Then start creating a model for how you want to do it. But understand all those terms, understand those 4 things first. I hope this helps. I do hope this helps. Don't pay anything though. Please don't do that. Okay. Okay. But research first.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. It's really helpful.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to check. Somebody had Elizabeth, did you have a question? No, wait, I hear. This is a microphone.
This is a question directly for you as publishers and I always have questions about money. I'm almost embarrassed. How much is the initial cost of paying for distribution that you cannot pay out of pocket? But if you had somebody to invest on that, what is that? How much is that money for distribution? I think Cati Porter was the one who addressed that more directly.
So if you are wanting just to have your book put into distribution, so you've already had it printed and you have a box of books, but you want to get it in distribution, so it'll go to bookstores and libraries. I know through Itasca, you can open an account with them, and I believe that part is free. But there are setup fees for every title. So there's a $250 setup fee to get your title into distribution at Itasca. They will ask for a bunch of information about the book. I've been dropping some links into the chat that I hope are helpful. And I know there are other distributors out there. Does everybody here know about small press distribution and how they imploded?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. We never got listed. We tried. We actually had tried to get our books into small press distribution, and it's gone. And a lot of publishers were hurt. By that happening. But Katie is correct. Like if there's different ways to do it. You can go print your book yourself on your own and have a box of books, and then you can get them into distribution. And then you can go through companies that will print for you and distribute them for you as well. We used Bookmobile, Katie, for our book of images. And I think they had an initial like $100 something cost. There's an initial cost to set up in there as well too. So there is a cost to upload and to get it in, whether they're going to print for you or they're going to take the books for you. KPD with Amazon was the cheapest because there's really no initial setup cost, but getting out of that Amazon ecological system is hard. So, you got to do the research, and I don't want to take too much time on this one question. One thing you can do is I'm open to you sending an email to have a longer conversation if you want to see where you are in your process, because I feel like we're giving information that you do need to walk through this step by step. And I think that's what makes this a little difficult, is that like, where are you in the process? Because I don't want to send you to go do this and to send you to go do that. And we're missing some pieces here. I'm just scared that you're going to go look up and then spend a bunch of money and you're not supposed. I don't want you to do that because I've seen that and that scares me. Please don't do that. So, but I'm open for that. I'm totally open if you want to have a longer conversation.
Hi, folks. Noriko, did you want to close this out? Because we're about at time. Did you want to say anything at the end? Thank you, Nikia, for that.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you, Katie, Nikia, Micah. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for all of this understanding about how it all works and getting us going. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to stop record for a second.